Commanding Heights, The Battle of Ideas. Keynes versus Hayek. Friedrich Hayek was a British economist and philosopher. He was a believer of a free market. He thought that government interference with the economy was a threat to freedom. John Maynard Keynes was a British economist. He believed in strong government regulation of markets. He helped organize wartime economies. Thatcher takes the helm. Britain, 1979. Thatcher was voted to be Prime Minister in 1979. She believed in Hayek's ideas and made reforms with his ideas in mind. She had realized that many of Britain's state-run enterprises had become inefficient and badly run. The same was also true for private businesses that remained stable because of large state subsidies. Firms lacked the motivation to innovate or improve their operations. There were no incentives to do so. These companies were legally insured their monopoly status, or they were guaranteed money each year no matter their performance. Traditional price signals were no longer functional. Thatcher cut the subsidies and privatized several of these big firms early on. This caused a sharp but temporary increase in unemployment as inefficient enterprises collapsed or downsized upon being exposed to real market forces, and their workers were laid off. These workers, many of whom were unionized, formed a small yet highly vocal opposition to Thatcher that persisted across her term. The Carter-Reagan term. In 1979, Paul Volcker was appointed chairman of the Federal Reserve. As a chairman, Volcker drastically increased interest rates and reduced the money supply. This was his step toward the curve for high inflation. The outcome of this reduced the ability of credit, which hurt businesses and farmers, and it also led to layoffs and bankruptcies. This also had a negative impact for average people who would purchase things via a loan, such as houses, cars, and other expensive items. In 1982, U.S. inflation had returned to much lower levels. In 1982, Thatcher aimed to privatize some of the UK's biggest and most wasteful nationalized industries. This included the state-run coal mines. Thatcher ran into some difficult situations when trying to turn the coal industry for privatization. Her biggest challenge was the powerful miners' union. She was able to get past those challenges and succeed with her reforms that cut government subsidies for their operations and that destroyed the union's power. The coal mines then went out of business and were pushed to buy much cheaper coal from other companies. This had a huge positive impact on British consumers, but had a negative impact on the coal miners who were left jobless. The Heights go up for sale. The Thatcher government had a huge impact on the British economy. Thatcher took the commanding heights away from the government control. Electricity, telephones, oil, gas, coal, steel, trains, planes, and water were sold off into the private sectors. These state-owned companies were now selling shares to the public. In the 1990s, Reagan and Thatcher's terms were very critical to restoring the credibility of the free market. As these two countries were both experiencing economic improvements, other countries started considering to follow their policies that favored the free market. These two had set the stage for major global economic changes.